as a trauma-informed and somatic-informed person who is also within the lovely sphere of mysticism and holistic land and personal development land, it is time to start sharing stories of what it's like for the securely attached person, functional adults, to be around people in general, and particularly when we are embracing, societally speaking, aspects that are different than those who do not have the secure attachment within their own human being body. They're not in a 5D brain that is integrated left and right mode. And so they're not able to say, I have a subjective experience, no matter how you address me, I'm okay with it because I'm an adult. Those who are here, they will know stories like what I'm going to share with you, and they will know how to address it where we can address it. And that means when we're able to, because people are open to their own journey of becoming their functional adults. So to be yourself is easy if you are understanding that as a human, you rule with your 3-year-old or 2-year-old emotional self. And that means, though, if you have unfinished business from home, and that will be very clear if you're not compassionate with all humanity yet, because it's the emotion of compassion that people who still have unfinished business from their 3-year-old will say, and they have a bunch of stories, including the whole devil, evil, and temptation. It's not about God. I grew up with God. Actually, God to me has always been the essence of life and love. Therefore, there's no worry. In fact, I'm not worried for one reason, and that's love always is what wins. That's our nature. And when you learn enough about trauma-informed and somatic-informed, you understand why homeostasis, the restorative embodied self, it's not about yoga or spirituality. It's actually about you choosing how to conduct yourself when people address you. And that's because you choose how to talk about your emotions because you can. If you have a 3-year-old whole heart and you're a differentiated self. Okay, so moving into 5D mysticism, functional adulthood, enlightenment. This is for my lovely community as usual. It isn't a race. It's a person who knows how to be compassionate with all of humanity because humans are not broken. They're not evil. They're not demons and they're not devils. What they are people with an embodied brain and nervous system. And if only people learned enough about themselves, then we would find ourselves in a very different circumstance right now than we instead find. Movies like Hangover or Mean Girls actually are what people think are the truth. And I don't find humor in movies anymore. I mean, I will be entertained, but if I have to settle into the truth, I'm like, damn, it sucks to see people. No, you know what? I don't have to even watch movies. I don't know. Maybe actually it's better if I watch movies. That way, at least I know it's entertainment. But okay, so let me get to the story because there's a story. And every one of us in our lives, we have our loved ones, right? So with trauma-informed, somatic-informed, and mysticism and holistic plane, I like to support loved ones who want to move into their grown-up land. And so I share with them with a lot of excitement everything that I get to learn. And lo and behold, here's how people, they think of pink-tainted glasses, and they think of innocence, and they think of somehow being gullible, or a lot of other words come to the mouth of people who continue to experience their relationships from a different spectrum. To my relationships, I treat people like adults, and then I know if I'm handling a projection or an adaptive child, and I'm not going to be addressing it to the person. I'm just going to learn, or I already learned how to hold the space, because it's very easy for those of us who don't have to prove who we are. An adaptive child has to prove who they are. A functional adult doesn't, because I'm Maria. That's who I am. It's called being a differentiated self. So emotionally speaking, if you're offending me, my entire society, my social system is not going to synchronize with my peers. I might feel sad, but I probably felt sad enough when I was a kid. There's a story with when I was 5 or something where I was crying because nobody wanted to play with me because I was too serious. That was funny, yeah. And then I grew up and they were still not playing with me. And as I got to teenage land, I'm like, I don't want to play with you because you guys and gals and all don't know how to stay true to your word. You all turn your back on each other. Oh, and you blame God about it. And then you say the devil won. And it's like, nope, you just made a conscious choice to treat somebody like shit and whatever it is, like you chose. But now I know about trauma. So let's get into that one because see, as Patrick Teahan points out, it's very important for people who have childhood trauma to learn about it from a good therapist, because otherwise they can become basically a person who's subjected to religious institutions and spiritual institutions in a way that you will unfortunately not, that's where it's sad to see some people actually move into these spectrums. I've tried, when I've noticed it, to say, they don't know more than you. You're intuitive just like they are. So you don't have to do what they're saying, because they don't seem to. No, but you have your friends. You can be yourself with all your friends. I want a group too. So that's why people go with silverbacks, and instead they could go to good therapy, like Patrick Tiahan mentions, and learn about codependent types and get out of becoming a person who is going to use a lot of time in areas that, anyways, they might learn about it, they might not. I've seen people not learn. And right now we had this major shift, and a lot of people turned their back on the entire mysticism plane in a way of actually thinking that they are doomed to be suffering because they are on Jesus' side. So they have to suffer. This is the spiritual bypassers. When, lo and behold, I have been doomed to be in this place because I'm special. We're all special, and we all go through things, and a curveball is a curveball, and anybody who can catch it and then work with their emotional body. So again, the 3-year-old of every person is what you get to begin. Some people become angry, and it's the teenager who doesn't actually turn to the 3-year-old and say, come here. And then it's the adult that doesn't recognize that they're an adult now, and that emotions come up because that's our human nature. We don't have to blame human suffering. We have the ability to know what it is, which is a temporal junction. And if you're going to sit in it, you're going to ruminate, and that's not going to make it better. Because the temporal junction is where you relate to the past or to the situation with the past. Ruminating is in a biochemistry of fear, and you haven't learned to use your prefrontal cortex to say, I'm here dealing with this. Oh yeah, I did get a curveball. Let me do equanimity because I can work with my window. For those of us who have a 3-year-old whole heart, it's a window of welcome with emotions. Those who don't yet, it's not. That's the whole point of why good therapy, as Patrick Tiahan points out, is good to do, not self-awareness. You can diagnose yourself. You need good therapy if you figured out that you have unresolved trauma, because the projection and the reactivity, and then after reading all the self-help books and nothing's worked, it's because you're not working with your window of tolerance in your nervous system. And so, long story short, when people don't accept that therapy is a good option, there are those who complain that it's not accessible. And here's where, as Patrick Tiahan points out, he knows, and a lot of good therapists know, how inaccessible some things are, but that doesn't mean you can go around or want to keep going around projecting the trauma with people. So long story short, in our society, what I see consistently are people using words when there's misalignment, which is really compulsive behavior due to unresolved trauma that has been brought forth by certain types of relationships. And in one of these instances, when I was noticing this because of being trauma-informed, because of actually understanding that what I was dealing with is not a person who's afraid of healing. It's a person who doesn't have the ability to address their own inner trauma because they're refusing to go to therapy. No, they went to therapy. They didn't get good therapy. So the first instance of me sharing with this individual who has had a 5-year, apparently very abusive relationship physically. And when I mentioned trauma-informed, Reiki aspects, just as a personal share, they're like, no. And they said, therapists, what an awful group of people like this. So that's a very sad day. And it's a very sad day because then you see how they toxically drink and bring people, different people, and there's that compulsive shame cycle. And it's not a shame cycle because of the activity, it's that they're in a neuroplasticity that is not helping them to heal. And you know what the people around in the society group, they're thinking? They're like the little asshole teenagers. And teenagers, they're immature for a reason. When I see adults being little assholes, that's different, which is why movies like Hangover or Mean Girls don't make me laugh. And when I meet people and tell them about trauma-informed or mysticism and they say, I'm woo-woo lady, well, guess what? I'm good with being woo-woo pseudoscience lady. But what I know is that a person could be better, but they're not able to for a lot of reasons, and that people in the group of society are judging this as the norm versus learning.